Okay. Oh, I meant to make myself some water before I started. Shucks. Hello, I'm live. I didn't go on anything to tell anybody that I was going live. It's probably my mistake. Um, I'm gonna fix myself some water, you guys. Just wait here. Oh boy. And um, I was just now reading about the history of carnivore, and I still want to make a carnivore timeline. But I was reading, and I think I actually have this book. I was reading about doctors in the past who have prescribed the carnivore diet, and there were a lot. Sometimes it's a little bit different, like they'll allow green vegetables, but many times it's just fat and meat. And I think I have this book, Strong Medicine by Dr. Blake Donaldson. Treating obesity with fatty meat. Let's see. 2 ounces of visible fat, 6 ounces of lean meat, and 2 ounces of visible fat 3 times a day from either lamb or beef. No pork, chicken, no fish, no eggs, only ruminant meat. He prescribed 30 minutes of walking before breakfast and exactly nothing else. But I was also going to look up what they prescribed for diabetes, like back in the day before they had insulin. I've been trying to research that. It's not easy to find, and it was known as the starvation diet. It was basically fat and a little bit of meat. Anyway, it's an interesting history. I'm in the process of doing the lion diet for the month of August, and if I feel good at the end of the month, I'll keep going. I've done it in the past for 3 months at a time, 3 different times. It's hard to stay on when your why isn't to stay out of pain. Aha. Well, hello, Lewis. Awesome. Thank you for coming. So I was going to go through, I'm watching my Dexcom, and I have low blood sugar, and I've already been a little bit confused. So what are we talking about today? I was going to talk a little bit about the history of treating disease with the lion diet. Oh, what's my number? Let's look it up. I was 53 just a minute ago, and I did some banking and I got really confused. So it's pretty funny. Yeah, 52. And I will tell you exactly why my blood sugar is low right now. It's because thank you, Lewis. It's because I ate brisket for lunch, and brisket is a very, very fatty meat. And so it's difficult to bolus your insulin for. So before lunch, what was I before? I was a little bit high right before lunch at 128. So I wanted to cover I didn't want to wait. Usually when I have brisket, I'll wait like an hour or 2. Yesterday I had brisket, and it worked really well. What I did is right after I ate, I took a tiny bit of insulin. I took half of a unit of insulin. And then about an hour later, I took another half a unit of insulin. And then about 3 hours later, I took another half unit of insulin. And that worked like really, really well. But today, I um, you would think I would know how to do it, right? You would think. I'm learning. Maybe I'm a slow learner, or maybe it's just a really difficult situation. Um, Hi, Cheryl. Hi. Does anybody know how to keep the comments up without they disappear after a few minutes, and it makes me crazy? I guess I just have to keep checking it. I have to keep anyway. So today, when my blood sugar was 130, right before lunch, I went ahead and took 2 units. And I thought maybe it would lower me too much, and that's basically what it did. It lowered me too much, and so now I don't want to eat candy. I don't want to eat my mints that I use to correct my blood sugar with, because I have food that's going to digest and my blood sugar will come up. Now, if I have to, I will. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 2 of them. So this is what I use. What's that? Wait a minute. Okay, just a minute. Let me read this. It says, how about some dairy? Does that raise my blood sugar? Not really. No, it doesn't. I'm going to take 2 of these. This will raise it enough to be more coherent. But I don't want to. So at 53, if I didn't have any food coming to be digested, if it was just 53 on a regular day without, then I would want to be 83. So the difference between 53 and 83, see, it's like you have to do arithmetic while your blood sugar is low. It's crazy, right? So the difference is 30 points. So if one of these raises my blood sugar 5 points, 5 into 30 is 6. So I'd have to use 6 of them. That's how the arithmetic usually goes. But I'm comfortable in the upper 60s to 70s. So just now I ate 2 of them. It should help a little bit. And because I'm usually in nutritional ketosis, I don't get quite as confused with a blood sugar in the 50s as I might have in the past when I might not have been in nutritional ketosis. So that's the story. So I was toying between talking about the history of treating type 1 diabetes with an all-meat diet before they had insulin, which I've read a lot about, or just going through my history a little bit more exact that I have not talked, things I haven't really talked about. But relying on my memory of my life before I was diagnosed is a little bit challenging when my blood sugar is low. So I'll talk about anything that anybody wants to talk about. If you want to ask me questions, basically I think that before they discovered insulin in the early 1900s, they were treating children with type 1 diabetes with an all meat diet, but they were still dying. And basically, they would starve them and just give them enough meat and fat so they wouldn't starve to death. That was, they had not learned. Plus, there were all these doctors in the past who were keeping records of treating people with an all-meat diet, but it was mostly for older people who were having sugar in their urine. It's basically all they knew, which meant it was really just type 2 diabetes, that they were treating them with an all-meat diet like Blake Donaldson in the 20s and 30s. And I was just reading, does anybody know about that website that I just found called jointheruminati.com? I never knew that. Yes. Yeah. So there was, and it's interesting to look at the history of these kids they were all in the hospital, in bed, drinking a little broth basically and eating a little bit of meat every now and then. And they were all just, when you are diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, you lose weight rapidly. Like when I was diagnosed, which I don't think I've ever told maybe that's what I'll talk about today, my diagnosis story. That's what I will talk about today. So when I was 15, I had really bad acne, and I was put on tetracycline, which is a really strong antibiotic for my acne. And nobody really thought about it, but I complained for a solid year to my mother about how bad I felt. Like I had a stomach ache, I was tired. Basically, it was like I had chronic fatigue, but nobody knew what chronic fatigue was. It was 1971 or 70 when I was 15. So I complained to all my friends. My friends thought I was a hypochondriac. My mother didn't know what to think about it. I just felt bad all the time. And I was, if I knew how to edit video, I would show you a picture of myself. But, my mom took me to a doctor. And it was the family doctor, Dr. Ward. He was this old guy. He was probably 50, but he looked ancient to me, And we were saying, I just feel bad all the time. I eat, and when I eat, I feel bad, and I just, what's wrong with me? And he literally rolled his eyes at my mom, kind of laughing under his breath, and said, I'll give you a B12 shot. I don't know what else to do. And then he told my mom, it's just growing pains, basically just ignore her. And so my poor mom, she wanted to believe me, but she believed in medicine, because what else was she going to believe in, right? So we went home after that, and I just continued to feel bad all the time. And then one day I just started losing weight. Now I was, I've always been thin, but let's see, I think I weighed about 115 at 5'6". I grew after 16. So now I'm 16 years old, and I started losing weight. So I started at, I think, 115, and I lost down to 92 pounds. And I was really, 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 really thirsty. That's the classic signs, but nobody knew in 1971 what the classic signs of type 1 diabetes was. It wasn't even called type 1 diabetes. But I was really thirsty, really, really thirsty. My mom was afraid to take me to the doctor because the doctor had basically made fun of her. and she was humiliated. So she didn't know what to do. She was literally wringing her hands. She wanted to believe me. She didn't know what to do. And then I started spotting between my periods, just a little brown spot in my underwear at the wrong time of the month. And she said, "Oh, I got an idea. I'll take you to a gynecologist." So she took me to the gynecologist. I think I had been to him once before, but he was like well known in our suburb of that's who you took your daughters to, And he was very nice. He listened to how bad I was feeling. My mom was telling him that I was spotting between periods. And he went up close to me and he was curious about the way my breath smelled. Now, after I learned a whole lot, he was smelling ketones on my breath. He was smelling acetone on my breath. And he thought, let me do a urine test. So I filled up a cup with urine. He tested my urine and it was high in sugar. And he said, "I believe I know what's wrong with you. You need to go downstairs to the internist and they'll see you now." And so I went down to this different doctor and he very rapidly diagnosed me with juvenile onset diabetes and said, "Come back to the hospital in the morning." And my mother cried and I was like, I wasn't even upset. I knew a few different, what did we call it? We called it juvenile onset diabetes. Okay, that's what we called it. My best friend's sister had it. She had had it since she was 3, and she was older than us. Maybe she was 20 or was 18 or 20. She was a few years older than us. She had very bad health. And I knew this lady at church who had it, and she was beautiful. She was a beautiful woman and had 4 healthy children. And I was like, okay. And I was so glad that what I had a name that I wasn't even upset about it. Like, I figured I could handle it. No big deal. So the next morning, my mom and dad brought me to the hospital. And I don't, I remember parts of being in the hospital. I remember that there was a man from our church who was also in the hospital. He was just getting tests, and he was a famous, he was a newscaster. No, he was a weatherman in our local area. It was in Metairie, Louisiana, which is a suburb of New Orleans. Do I remember his name? I don't remember his name. He was a handsome man. He was the weatherman, and his name, I think his name was, no, I don't remember it. Yeah, anyway, he came to see me. He was very nice because he went to our church. And they came by and they taught me how to give myself shots. And my parents never learned how to do the shots. I was 16. And at the time, the way they treated juvenile onset diabetes was you took 1 shot in the morning and you did urine tests. And the doctor said, you can't ever eat sugar again. That was the directions. And they gave me a diet, which was a list of exchanges. And they put me on a 2,000 calorie diet with 6 bread exchanges. I don't remember how many protein exchanges, but you had bread exchanges, you had protein exchanges, you had vegetable exchanges and fruit exchanges, but I think you were allowed like a couple of pieces of fruit a day. and you had free exchanges. And the free exchanges, all I remember is I think it was celery and pickles. You can eat as much as you want of pickles and celery. I don't remember what else was on it. Maybe probably sugar-free Jello. I don't really remember, but those were the old days. And basically, I was put in charge of all of it. Well, Dr. Nelson, hi, you just missed my whole story of my diagnosis, but good to see you here. That's awesome. So that means y'all can see each other's messages and I can't. And there's, oh, broth. Okay, cool. I don't even remember that because in my life, there was no such thing as broth. We had like bouillon cubes. I think bouillon cubes were a free exchange. So y'all can see each other's comments and I can't. They disappear for me. It's so weird. Let's see if I, okay. All right. Okay. So anyway, they were teaching me how to shoot up an orange. They taught you with an orange to shoot water into an orange with a syringe. Oh, that's right. I remember that. Your sister and Dr. Kills' sister both had juvenile onset diabetes. That's right. So anyway, with the knowledge of these two people that I knew that had diabetes, and I knew that my best friend's sister, she was in and out of the hospital all the time. She had horrible she was in and out of the hospital all the time with really high blood sugars or really low blood sugars. I don't even know what it was. And she'd have big cysts on her back that would have to be lanced. And I knew that she did not watch what she ate. She ate whatever she wanted to. She was always swollen with kidney damage. I knew what that looked like. And I didn't want that. And then the woman that I knew at church with the 4 beautiful children, who was also a juvenile onset diabetic, I knew that she followed her diet very carefully and she was healthy and beautiful. And I knew that that's what I wanted. So I was really careful, but still we had no way to test our blood sugars. We only had a urine test, and by the time you have sugar in your urine, your blood sugars are already very high. So, and if we had sugar in our urine, we had no way to lower our blood sugar. You just went through your day, you took your insulin in the morning, and you ate your 3 meals, following their diet, hoping that you'd be okay. But the only way you could test your blood sugar was to go to a clinic when your doctor ordered you to. So I don't even know how we lived through that, really. I didn't weigh my food. I ate what I thought I was supposed to eat, but I also knew that if I was going to, like I had 6 bread exchanges. I knew if I ate that much bread that I'd get fat, and I didn't want to be fat. So I didn't follow the diet, but I also got the impression that the medical system did not know about food. What? Right. So I got the impression that the medical system didn't know about food or how it would affect the body. And so I was on my own, which led me to make discoveries on my own about my diabetes and my diet. And so at 16, I do the best I can. I don't have low blood sugar very often. When I left the hospital, I was on 32 units of insulin, of the NPH insulin that they put me on, and that was it. Um, and then, and that summer, so that was April. I don't know the date because nobody thought it was going to be important. But just a few months later, I was allowed to go to this Christian summer camp that I had gone to every year for many years. How's my blood sugar now? Let's see. Let's look. I don't have my little receiver because 55. it's high enough for me to make sense. It's okay. It'll come up. We'll watch it. We'll watch it. But I don't want any alarms. I turned the alarms off on my CGM. So I was allowed to go to summer camp by myself. There was a nurse at summer camp, but she didn't know anything. And so I kept my insulin in the refrigerator at the kitchen, and I was allowed to do everything on my own. It was quite a funny experience. So then I had, let's see, that was my junior year. So then I had my senior year of high school, and then I went away to college and managed it all on my own. And I took a nutrition class in college. I aced it. I don't really remember that much except that it was just nutrition and I was interested in it. And I had a reason to be more interested in nutrition now because I was seeing how food affected me. But I also had bad headaches my entire life. Like that was part of what was making me feel bad. My headaches started when I was 6 years old. So I wanted to go back a little bit with my history because I've never talked about the fact that I was 6 weeks premature. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I've been listening to all of the interviews that Charlene Anderson has done recently, and I'm always thinking about how she starts her interview with that she was not able to breastfeed more than 3 months when she was a baby. And I was like, I never thought about going that far back with my health history. So I was 6 weeks premature. I also was born with crossed eyes and started going to eye doctors when I was a baby. I had glasses at 15 months old. I had my first eye operation when I was 3. I had my tonsils removed when I was also 3 because of recurring ear infections. So basically, I was not a well child. The headaches started when I was 6, like I said. But when I was 3, I had 2, I don't know if you call them major operations, but getting your tonsils removed, it's not major because your body isn't cut open. And an eye operation isn't major because it's your eyes, it's not your body being cut open. I think that's what a major surgery means. But still, you have to be put under. So I was put under twice when I was 3. So I feel like that my immune system had a lot going against it, we'll say. So then I had another eye operation when I was 10. Like I said, the headaches started when I was 6, and I would take, when I was a kid, I took aspirin, of course. But when I was a little bit older, 12, 13, 14, still having the headaches, and I get them, they just come up, no reason, like if I was playing outside, I'd get a headache. So I was allowed to take Tylenol and Advil, whatever I wanted. And I'd take, if 2 wasn't enough, I'd take 3, or I'd take 4. And then a couple hours later, I'd take 4 more. I was taking handfuls of Advil and Tylenol, you know, because if you took enough, your headache would finally go away. So then, acne at 15, and then, um, I already talked about how bad I felt before I was diagnosed. So, like a chronic fatigue kind of situation, just felt bad all the time. And I, went to the doctor. I'm just kind of because a lot of people have joined late. I'm just quickly going over um, those, the lead up to the diagnosis. Um, Doctor giving me a B12 shot and making my mother feel really bad for even bringing me to the doctor with the symptoms that I had of just feeling horrible. That was my only symptom. Um, and then, less than a year later, having periods, or, spotting between periods. The gynecologist basically diagnosed me from testing my urine sugar and smelling my breath. And then I ended up at the hospital the next day morning and spent a week in the hospital learning how to oh, hi Nikki, and hi Donna Ray. um, Learning how to give shots, and they tried to teach me about the exchange list. And then I went on to finish high school, and then I started college. I went to summer camp by myself. Pretty funny, just months after I was diagnosed. It's crazy what they expected of a 16-year-old sometimes, that I think about. But I'm glad they did, because it made me responsible for my health. And it was really good that I recognized that the doctors didn't know really about nutrition, that it was going to be up to me to figure out my own nutrition. And that was good too. But also, when I was in school, I had the nutrition course, so I knew what basic nutrition was being taught. And then, but it was the 70s. By that time, I graduated in 76. And by 77, 78, 79, I was really into the health food movement. Like health food stores. My boyfriend and then husband owned a health food store, and I started reading health books. And so I should have a list of all the health books I read, but I read all of the Adele Davis books. I read, who was that? Pavo Airola books. I bet some of y'all have read Pavo Airola books. Maybe Dr. Nelson has. I think it was called How to Get Well. And Jethro Kloss. And I have heard people on Dave Mack mention Jethro Kloss, and I just like, oh my God. So Jethro Kloss wrote a book called Back to Eden, and it was all about healing everything. He had a whole list. It's a fun book, and I wish I'd gotten rid of it, and I wish I hadn't, because it's really fun. But all the different diseases that herbs can heal. So I started studying herbs, and Jethro Kloss said that you could heal juvenile onset diabetes if you started right away. But if you had been on insulin for a year, you wouldn't be able to heal it. And that was his opinion. I think, and I don't know that much about him, but he wrote this book. It was like, 600 pages, huge, about what herbs would heal. And I was always trying different herbal things and different juices. And something about string bean juice would heal type 1 diabetes, which of course they didn't call it type 1 diabetes back then. But so I started studying herbs. I was just sure that if diseases like cancer and the other diseases that are listed in these herbal books that I was reading, and the Adele Davis books and the Pavo Airola books, all this stuff about natural healing. Well, why couldn't type 1 diabetes be healed? I don't know what year they started calling it type 1. It wasn't all that long ago, really. Maybe it was in the 80s. I don't know. Not sure. So anyway, I was just sure that I could heal it. And so I went through a lot of different experiments with herbs, which I took mega doses of golden seal. I tried a bunch of different herbs. I kept trying different things. So like I said, I left the hospital on 32 units of insulin. If I took mega doses of golden seal, which is basically an herb like berberine, I took enough one time that I could get my insulin down to 17 units, which was amazing back then, because by then it was probably early 80s. I'd say it was the early 80s that I was trying all the different herbs, that was like amazing. But you're not supposed to stay on golden seal for a long time, so I had to quit that. So let me see what comes next. So it comes next as I just had my kids. I was busy being a mom. All right, I'm gonna have to look at this. I want to see, what evidence or inspiration did Jethro have to hypothesize? Okay. I'm trying to figure out why they won't stay up. Confirm his belief that type 1 could be healed in the early stages. And whenever my grandmother was diagnosed with diabetes in the mid-80s, they called it sugar diabetes, right. Right, yeah. Well, golden seal is a powerful herb for sure. So Jethro I don't know, I think he had experience. I think he might have healed some people. He would keep them in bed. Green string bean juice was big, and back then I didn't even understand what juice was. I thought it was the water that you cook them in. I didn't understand that you had to put it through a juicer. I mean, I was naive. But I think, and with maybe poultices of some sort, you could probably get an old copy of Back to Eden by Jethro Kloss and read it and see what you think about it. I wish I still had my copy, but I don't. You get rid of books over the years and you never know which ones to keep and which ones to get rid of, right? I'm going to look at my blood sugar. 61. See, it's slowly coming up. So it's good. Okay, so then what happened next? I decided to eat a vegetarian diet because it seemed like most of the books were talking about a vegetarian diet. So, and then every time I'd get pregnant, I was like, oh, I got to eat some animal protein. So we'd have some chicken and turkey. So basically, I raised my kids on vegetarian. Yes, Back to Eden, Jethro Kloss. Yes, that's the book. You might find something really interesting in it, Nikki. I don't know. So I raised my kids on a basically vegetarian, very high in tofu. I became the tofu queen. I could make tofu taste good. We ate so much tofu. But we also occasionally had chicken and turkey and tuna. Okay, very occasionally, but not very often. Just enough to keep my kids alive, basically, or to eat when I was pregnant. To give you an example, we were at dinner. We were eating dinner, and I decided I'm going to eat. I'm pregnant again. I'm going to make a chicken, and so I'm pregnant with my second child, and I need, I think I better eat some chicken. So we cooked. I baked a chicken. I roasted a chicken, and I put it on the table. And my 5-year-old is looking at it. He's never seen a chicken before, and he looks at it, and we're talking about here's the legs, and here's the wings, and this is the breast, and he says, "Well, where's the face?" My kids were so protected because I was afraid to eat meat. And I went for 35 years without eating red meat. I was, down to chicken and turkey and eat. So anyway, by the time, so I had all three of my kids. They were fairly healthy. We did not go to doctors. We went to a naturopath. We moved up north from Louisiana when my youngest was 6 months old. And I met a naturopath. We used a naturopath. I did not immunize my kids because because of all my nutritional studying, I decided that wasn't good for them. So they didn't get immunized on purpose. And let's see. And then by the time my youngest was about 4 or 5, I started getting really sick. Now, if you have studied type 1 diabetes, you know that the major complications of high blood sugar, or for even type 2 diabetics, type 2 and type 1, they have the same complications. It's the leading cause of blindness. So you can lose your vision. You can injure your kidneys and have to get a kidney transplant or go on dialysis, or you can have your toes amputated, like our friend Thomas. You can lose your feet. You can lose your whole leg. Your hands get affected. But my problem when I started getting sick was I had frozen shoulders, but not only just frozen shoulders, which are fairly common in people that aren't diabetic. My hips were frozen. It would take me to get out of a chair, it would take me about a minute to lift myself up. Now I'm 42 years old. That's how old I was when this was all going on. I could barely get up out of a chair. If I got down on the floor, and I was skinny. It wasn't because I was big and fat. I was still skinny. I was no different. But I could not, anyway, if I got down on the floor, it would take me a solid minute to get up off the floor. I could barely get out of a chair. When we sat and watched TV, my head would droop and I couldn't hold my head up. And I was fatigued and depressed. So at that time, I was going to bed at about 7:30, 8 o'clock, because I just couldn't stand to be up anymore. I don't know what I was doing. I was just sad that I was feeling so bad. So then that's when I found Dr. Bernstein. So a friend of mine who was also a type 1 diabetic, I've told this story a lot, but I'm going to tell it again because it completes the story. What does frozen shoulder feel like? Frozen shoulder, Miss Lampa? Frozen shoulder is extremely painful. It's not just a frozen joint, it's extreme pain. And when you reach out to do anything, everything hurts, and it just hurts in your shoulder. And then you can't raise it. I could not pull it all the way out. I couldn't raise it. You can't raise it till about, yeah. So it's frozen, but it's also extremely painful. So when you sleep on it, you can't get comfortable because your shoulders are always hurting. I didn't have them both at the same time. I had one and then I had the other. And I went to physical therapy for it, and it slowly, very slowly, got better. Yeah. But the best thing was finding Dr. Bernstein, I mean, I didn't go to him. I read his book. I read the article. I got cassette tapes to listen to about his program, and he instructed people. I had still been taking, so I was avoiding doctors. I wasn't going to a doctor. I didn't want to be put on more than one shot a day, and I found out that that's what they were doing to diabetics. They were making them take more than one shot a day, and I saw that as the opposite of healing. I saw that as I'm getting worse because they're going to put me on more shots a day. But by the time I found Dr. Bernstein, I was so desperate that I really wanted to heal. I was desperate. And when I was sent an article by Dr. Bernstein about frozen shoulder being a symptom of high blood sugars, and that you needed to control your blood sugars, and here's my program. And so I sent off for his cassette tapes and listened to them, and I put myself on 5 shots a day, not with a doctor helping me. I went to the drugstore. You could, at that time, you could buy whatever insulin you wanted, and I didn't need a prescription. So I bought, somehow, I don't even know how, but I bought what was recommended by Dr. Bernstein. I bought Humalog, which is a fast insulin, and Ultralente, which is the insulin that he recommended in his book, or on the tapes, because his book didn't come out. Got the tapes in June of 1996. His book came out in September of 1996, which I devoured. By that time, I was already on his diet and on the 5 shots a day, and the next A1C I had was much, and A1Cs actually had just been invented. So I had never, right before I found Dr. Bernstein, so in 1995, I had my first A1C while I started going to a doctor because I wanted to find out what was wrong with me. And this woman was a diabetologist, and they didn't have endos, they were called diabetologists in 1995. So I went to her, she listens to me, I can't move, my shoulders are frozen, my hips are frozen, my knees hurt, I can barely move. And she said, well, I can send you to, she's scratching her head, I can send you to an orthopedic surgeon. And I'm like, that's it? She says, well, your numbers are good. So I had my first A1C test, and it was 6.5. She said, well, your numbers are good. There's no reason it's not caused by diabetes. Well, it was, because 3 months after I started the 5 shots a day and controlling my blood sugar better and being on Dr. Bernstein's was very low carb, so it was less than 30 grams of carbs a day. I was better. My shoulders were better, my hips were better, I could move my body like I always was able to. I had no complications at all. And in a few months, my A1C was 4.9, and I was happy. So that was basically what started it all. Now, you guys all know that I've been, okay, I'll just do quickly from there, because it's not really important about my history now, but I did Dr. Bernstein with no red meat. So his thing was meat and light vegetables. So I ate salads and chicken breast and eggs and turkey hot dogs. Like I ate turkey and chicken and tuna salad on a salad. That's basically what, and sauteed vegetables with tofu. That was my diet for 7 years. So then I heard about a family, they were called the Raw Food Family, and one of the kids in the Raw Food Family had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and his mother didn't want to put him on insulin, so she put him on a raw food diet. Now, and he got better. There was at the time even, there was a lot of suspicion on whether he really might have been a child with type 2 diabetes at the time, but nobody really questioned them, and so he was known as healing type 1 diabetes. So I'm like, okay, I gotta do raw food. So that's how I got into raw food. So I did 7 whole years of the raw vegan food. I had a snack company. I invented all these cool recipes for bread that I made with nuts and seeds. And I became pretty famous in the raw vegan community. I wrote a book. I had a company, Amy's Living Magic, and I sold stuff to celebrities. I sold stuff to Tree of Life in Patagonia, Arizona. I had 19 different kinds of chocolates with different superfoods in them. I sold to Donna Karan. She's a famous designer. So I was pretty famous. All the raw food celebrities knew me. My daughter actually worked for David Wolf. Matt Monarch and his wife came to our house to a raw food potluck to give a lecture. I traveled with my products to do shows. We had 5 different crackers. They were all good, and the food was excellent, and I was a genius to turn flax seeds and almonds and sunflower seeds into crackers and granola and brownies. They were a very big seller. Now I'm a famous carnivore. Well, I am not a famous carnivore creator in the kitchen, though. I think I burned myself out creating all those delicious raw food recipes, and they really were amazing. And I had bowls of nuts soaking all over my kitchen. The company was still in my house. I never made it into a factory or anything. I thought about, expanding, and I'm glad I never took a loan to expand. But, we were mailing packages all over the world, printing labels, and it was pretty crazy. And that was between I think it was only for 5 years. It was between 2007 and 2012 was when Amy's Living Magic was. And the chocolate was pretty darn delicious, and it was all sweetened with stevia, but it still made my blood sugar crazy. So my blood sugars at the time were up and down and up and down and up and down, because even though on a regular basis I was down to about 15 to 17 units of insulin on the raw vegan diet, there were times when I would fast a lot and do a lot of colonics, because this woman who did colonics and fasted people, she was sure she could figure out how to heal me. but she was also very busy with her breast cancer patients, her cancer patients that she was trying to heal with colonics, that she didn't really have time for me. And I did lots of juice fasting, 5-day juice fast, and I did pretty well. And a couple of times the day after my 5 days of fasting, I wouldn't need insulin. So I really thought for a while that the raw vegan diet would heal me, but then a lot of people in the movement were getting health problems. My husband's teeth were starting to rot. I didn't have problems like with my teeth because I didn't eat fruit. I still did it very low carb. So I did not eat fruit the whole time except a few blueberries. I did have blueberries every morning. I had a very measured amount of a quarter cup of blueberries with my breakfast, with buckwheat cereal, an amazing, delicious breakfast. But that was the only fruit I allowed myself. So anyway, I started getting joint pain. That was my famous, it was joint pain. I kept trying to figure out why you look different. Your camera is what? My camera is what? I look different? Your camera is in mirror, so your background is reversed. Really? I don't know why my camera would be in mirror. I don't know. That's the way I do it all the time. I don't know. Well, anyway, who was that just said that? Oh, it's Dr. Nelson. I don't know. I don't know. This is the way I always look. Really? It's reversed? I don't know. It's because I have glasses on. I started wearing my reading glasses all the time because I want to be able to read. That's why I look different, I think. So we quit being raw vegans, and started being ketovore, and we were into local food, and we bought all our food from local farmers. And I have told this part of the story a lot, but we got into local farming, and when I was, so we live in Maine, and there's a lot of really good, I don't know. In Maine, you can buy all your food from farmers, and we did that for years when we were in the keto diet. When I was researching the keto diet, because we wanted to be exact, because if raw food wasn't going to heal me, maybe keto would. And so we bought all our food from farmers, and I wanted to really research it and do it right. So when I was researching keto, I found Zeroing In on Health forum and then the Facebook group, and I read all about the zero carb people. And really, that's weird. It looks right to me, but I don't know how to unmirror it. I don't know. It's hard to remember what I've talked about. Well, I'm just going to say now I'm doing the lion diet again. I've done it before for 3 months at a time, 3 different times while I've been carnivore. I went carnivore November 12th, 2018. I had learned about the zero carb people, but I wasn't ready to, and I wish I had, because that was way back in 2010. And I would have been a carnivore for 16 years now if I had done that, but I didn't. I went carnivore in 2018, so it's almost 8 years. So I'm going to figure this out, but I don't know how to do it. It just lets me go live, messages are visible, and I don't know what is the mirror effect. There's all these things over here, but none of them look like mirrors. And I don't want to change any of them, but I'm sorry if I look weird. Um, no, this is not, I mean, I have used StreamYard. This is just YouTube. So this is just YouTube. I haven't used, I have used StreamYard before, but I find it a little bit difficult to use just because, what's the story about coffee? I do drink decaf, but not on a regular basis. That's what I'm doing now. So I'm doing Lion Diet, which is basically for me all beef because I'm not letting myself buy lamb because it's too expensive. So I'm eating beef 3 times a day, most of the time. I am drinking. Yes, I. Okay. I am drinking coffee. I took myself out for coffee and sat and read my book today. And I will have coffee tomorrow because it's book club. And I don't drink it every day, but it's just black coffee, and it's usually made with an espresso pot. So I'm either drinking a decaf espresso or a decaf Americano. Doesn't seem to bother my blood sugars. And the very first time that I did Lion, back in 2020, I did Lion for 3 months in July, August, and September. And I got my blood sugars way down, and my need for insulin was only about 6 units. It was the lowest I've ever needed insulin. But I couldn't keep it up, and it feels like the Lion Diet for me is like I just use my willpower, and I know that it doesn't really make sense to just use your willpower if you're going to get good from the Lion Diet. And as I was saying to 71, my blood sugar is 71 now. I hope it doesn't go any higher. I was talking to Rebecca Heichman last night. She was on Steak and Butter Gang, and I basically asked her the big question. I've already done Lion Diet. Now there is a woman who healed type 1 diabetes, Rachel. God, I don't remember her last name right now. Starts with a C. She lives in New Zealand. She was on insulin for 13 years, and she went on fatty red meat, like mostly lamb, for 5 months and was able to get off of insulin. Now, her story is a little bit different. Her story is, God, it's like weird. I can't remember her name. That's the weirdest thing ever. I've known her for years. And we've sent Facebook messengers, long messages back and forth to each other. She told me a lot about what she did. She did more than just eat. She had some other healing practices that she did that she has not gone into detail for me. But I was asking Rebecca Heichman last night, like, the diet isn't enough. It's got to be something else to turn the beta cells back on, to regenerate them. There's got to be something more, and I haven't figured it out yet. It's not quite enough just to go Lion. Now, going Lion does heal a lot of things, but this is a complicated issue with cells that are supposed to be able to produce insulin, that they've all died. Now, supposedly there's a few still straggling there in the pancreas because my C-peptide, which is a byproduct of producing insulin. I still have some C-peptide, but it's very, very, very little. So I might still have a few cells, but not enough to make insulin, any amount of insulin. My current C-peptide is 0.15, and it's got to be higher than that to produce enough insulin. So that is where I am. There's got to be, wonder how much insulin she had been creating naturally. Well, I don't know, but she has had her C-peptide. Her C-peptide has increased. Her and she's been, it's been like 6 years, at least 6 years since she was able to get off of insulin, and she's still off, and she's doing well. There is a Facebook group called NZ Carnivores. It stands for New Zealand Carnivores. And you can get in it even if you're not living in New Zealand. They'll let you in. And I'm one of the administrators, so I can let you in. And in their files is her detailed explanation of how she did it. And the thing about her was that she was actively sick with other autoimmune distress going on at the same time as treating her type 1 diabetes. So I believe that her pancreas was in the middle of the damage. Oh, really? She banned you? Oh, Dr. Nelson? Well, you should apply again, and I can, if I see your name, I'll let you in. She banned you? Oh, I'm sorry. And I can't remember her name. I've known her for years. It starts with a C. I just can't, it won't come to me. It's not Carlton, but it's something like that. Chalmers, Rachel Chalmers. Oh, I did not know that. That surprises me. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. That's very weird. But Dr. Nelson, I am working with someone right now who was a type 2 diabetic who was not well controlled, and now has to take insulin and has a very low score on his C-peptide, just like you. So it's an interesting situation, and he's trying really hard to be a very well-behaved carnivore, hoping to heal. And I think that someone who was a type 2 diabetic and was put on insulin and knows they don't make very much, I think they have a better chance of healing than a classic type 1 diabetic. But I still think that it's possible. I'll say a little bit more about what Rachel Heichman told me, to increase my sodium by just increasing my salt, make sure I get much more salt. For some reason, she thinks that's very healing. And I already eat extremely right. I don't think she had classic type 1, although she did take insulin for 13 years. She was it seems like all the people there have been a handful of people that have gotten off of insulin, but they've all been diagnosed after 25. And I think there is an interesting continuum of damage to the pancreas cells, the beta cells that produce insulin. And so it can be caused from an inflamed pancreas. And when that is the case, they may stop producing insulin. But when you turn off that inflammation of the beta cells, then they can return to produce insulin. And I think that that is what happened to her. So, and Dr. Anthony Chafee has had a few patients like that too. I think he's had 2 women who were newly diagnosed type 1 diabetics. And I think what he, right, and LADA too is partly type 1 and partly type 2. And I think you still got a chance to regenerate your beta cells. But I've also worked with a woman who's a LADA, and she goes down to Mexico to get stem cell treatment, and it has not gotten her off of insulin. She's tried really hard, but and she doesn't go 100% carnivore though yet. She's still working on it. So this continuum of what is the damage to the pancreas. If the damage is still active, like you just, if the slaughter was a really long time ago of the beta cells, if it was a really long time ago, then, then it may be too late. But if the damage is still happening and you figure out how to improve that damage, to take away the inflammation of the pancreas by going on a carnivore diet, then there is a chance that you would be able to get off of insulin. So I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I've been working at this for 50 years and I still have not been successful, but I'm still not willing to say that it's not possible. I still say it's possible. So that's where I'm going to leave it today. I'm going to use this week to do some studying on the history of using the all meat diet to heal. There's a few really good websites that have done this, and one of them I was on earlier, and it is called the Ruminati, and that's a new one to me, and it goes through the history, and that's a really good read. If you look up the history of the carnivore diet for healing, you might get this, the Ruminati.com. It's a fun read. I'm going to do some studying this week and see what I can come up with. But I do believe that if I'm going to heal, I'm going to have to figure out some other things to do with it. That includes saying, sorry, when I read this, what you just said. Yes, she has a story that includes saying that she had lab proof but can't produce it. She offered to show me but never did, and then banned you. Okay, well, I don't want to, I'm sure I was going to try to, I almost had her convinced that she could go on an interview with me, but I had, we're both a little afraid to do it. So, I just haven't done it yet. But she was thinking about it. So anyway, I just also, I have a new month for my coaching coming up. So if anybody wants to join my group, it'll start September 1st, the new group. I know we're almost halfway through August. So I've got my group going now. If you want to join for next month, or you could even do half a month if you wanted to get started with it. Spell what out? Can I spell out what? Dr. Nelson? Why doesn't it change? Oh, it's the technology, Nikki. I'm afraid of the technology of asking someone to Can you, repeat the website? Okay, yes, I can. Just a minute. Let me get back on it. Okay. Join the Ruminati.com. JoinTheRuminati. JoinTheRuminati.com. And you know what I'll do? I'll keep it here and I'll put it in our WhatsApp group because I think we'd all like to read it. I'll put it in both of the WhatsApp groups. So, yeah, I'll do that. So, good, you got it. All right. So, yep, my group coaching will be open for September. If you want to join my group, let me know. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Amy Fields Perrin. And find me and message me. And pretty soon I'll have a website where you can just buy my coaching for the month. It'll be a lot easier that you won't even have to get in touch with me. So, all righty. I'm going to sign off. I've been talking too long as it is. Next week is going to be about the history of using the carnivore diet to heal. So I've got my work cut out for me. I'm going to be studying all week. All righty, guys. So thank you so much for being here. I love you all, and goodbye.